Hey guys, welcome to Evilzombies Lair. This is episode 46 of the podcast. So we've got actually a pretty good number. We're almost to 50. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about some good fun stuff. We're going to be talking about the new Doom movie, Doom Annihilation. And with me today is also the director of the movie. Want to say hi?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, so Tony here as the director of the movie, and I've been excited about this coming out. The entire Doom community likes Doom, and they want more Doom content. Even if they complain or don't know what they like, they will love the movie anyways because it's Doom.
That's the hope,
It's
of
a
course.
complicated fan base.
It's a passionate fan base.
Yes, it's a passionate fan base. But after seeing it, I think that they're gonna actually like it because it's more loyal than the last one. At least storyline wise, it's way more loyal.
Yeah, well, thank you. That was the main intention of everybody who worked on it.
Oh
So,
yeah, I actually appreciated that. That was pretty nice.
oh, good.
As a
Glad you liked
die-hard Doom fan.
it. Great.
Okay, so we're gonna go over mostly just that today. That's gonna be the main topic of everything. And this podcast is going to be playing in two places. It's going to be on the main channel, youtube.com/evilzombie, and you can also search on any podcatcher you have for Evilzombies Lair. So, with that, let's get into the main topic. So, why don't you give us a brief synopsis of what the movie is and just describe it to them real quick, kind of like back of the cover thing.
Well, the movie very much follows the premise of the first Doom game, which is a something horrible as happened on a top secret moon base. A group of space marines are called in and to investigate, and literally all hell breaks loose. And I tried to stay very true to the plot of Doom One. I tried to bring in some elements from a couple of the other early games, and that's how I kind of formed the story.
So I noticed different Easter eggs and hints throughout it, and that was a lot of fun to look for. So, when did you actually first start playing Doom? Like, what was the first one you played? How'd that get you into the series?
I first played Doom the first Doom game, and it was shortly after I had moved out to Los Angeles. One of the guys who lived across the hall from me worked at a visual effects company down in Venice. And one night we were all supposed to go out. He was working late, went to pick him up, and he was like, "You guys got to come in here." And they had Doom set up on kind of you know all the computers,
Oh, so like a
and
LAN party kind of?
yeah, and
Nice.
we were all, and I had never played, and we were literally, it was probably about 9:30, where four guys in our 20s were all ready to go out in California, and suddenly next thing we know, we start playing this game, and it was 4:30 in the morning. We had played all night, killing
Sounds about
demons,
right.
and I was hooked, and it was the PC version at the time, and uh, I just thought it was so much fun, and just the fact that we just lost ourselves in the game. um, I just loved it. I did, just thought there was so much potential in the game, and it was just so much fun. And it kind of started me thinking, like, I wonder what a movie could look like. That was way, I mean, a long time ago, but even back then, that's how I thought.
Yeah, you wanted to do something kind of like your own fan tribute to the amazing series, right?
Yeah, I mean, the the plot of Doom, especially the early games, they were very simple, and that's not a negative when you're adapting a story. It's harder to adapt something that is dense, like a 1,000-page novel. Like, it took 5.5 hours to tell the story of it, and they still left out
A lot of
so
stuff.
much out of Stephen King's book. You know, not comparing myself in any way, but Stanley Kubrick, who always used to say short stories were the better adaptations because it allowed you to have a concise short story where you can add to and make it longer. So Doom's plot, which we basically follow, it allowed me to add the elements. And what I tried to do was that exact thing. Like, what are these elements that are the coolest things that I thought were in the Doom games that could be, made into a feature length film.
Yeah, and it gave you enough breathing room to be able to be a little flexible with it and have a little more creative control, but still stay loyal.
Yes,
So
I
that's good.
mean, because there were some awesome things that were introduced in those games that, I mean, the original idea of the gates, they used them kind of as elevators to go up and down levels. It seemed like that would be a pretty waste of time on, if you had the ability to teleport, you wouldn't just go upstairs. So that really, the crux of the whole thing for me was that once I kind of locked in on what would you use teleportation for? And we're always hearing these stories of, there's all these Earth-like planets all over the
Hmm.
universe, but we just can't get to them.
Yeah, it's just too
So
far.
the idea, and all of this stuff was in the game, that the idea that there are these slabs that had been left by some previous being that had been here, or what they were, it was all kind of, that just started me thinking of the gates can be a bigger part of a Doom movie than they were of the Doom game. Because even in the Doom game, they're big because they open up the portal to hell. So I just basically, that was kind of what I locked in on, to really, bring some, not a uniqueness because it was already in the game, but to make bigger and stuff for the movie.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think you answered this one, but which game was probably the most inspiring towards the concept of the film? Would you say it's probably the first one? Just yeah.
Yeah, clearly, Dr. Petruga is a big character in our film, so
Yeah, from
I
the
like
third
to kind
game.
of pitch it as the first half of the film has elements of one and three, and then the back half of the film is pretty much one.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought, like, if the original Doom game opens with the Marines landing, going in, your guy's at the end, and then he's the last one to go in. So I kind of followed that model a little bit more clearly. We follow the Marines in, and there's more going on before everybody's eliminated. But that's just, that's where I kind of was like, because we had this ability to, you have to make a movie, so you have to set up your characters, you have to care about them, you have to do these kind of things. You have to, you can't just jump into it. So that's why when I was developing the story, it seemed natural to bring in, because a little bit of my vision, it was always supposed to be just Doom 1. But then once I started developing the story, I'm like, we're kind of a prequel here in the beginning. So I went to game 3, which was a prequel game. And, Betruger was such an interesting character that made a lot of sense for me to use. So that's probably,
Yeah, and the actor for him was actually really cool. I liked that. He did a good
you know,
job portraying creepy doctor.
it's really funny. And I probably should. All right, I'll tell a funny story. This basically tells you that I'm a pretty open-minded director. I had a very different vision of who I wanted, and we weren't finding that person. And the studio really liked this guy, Dominic. And I just didn't see it. I didn't see it, but we were running out of time. And his audition was great, but it just, there's sometimes you just see it and you're like, that's not the guy I'm picturing. Um, his first day was the day where we're in the reactive room, and he's got all that dialogue, and he basically drops the characters and the big plot. And he's got his big
Yeah, the monologue.
scene. And he had just drove in from Romania. We shot in Bulgaria on another movie all night, and he arrived to shoot with us. He drove all day to shoot with us all night, and he knocked it out of the park. Like, the
Yeah.
first take, I came up to him and I said, that was amazing. And so I was a total convert. And on my way home from work, I had texted our main Universal exec, and I said, you were totally right. The guy was awesome. So
That guy
I
that
can
guy was
be
awesome.
I can be turned, and but so he did it. He did such a fantastic job. He's such a professional actor, and I don't know if he knew exactly what he was saying a lot of the times, because it was very much video games were not part of his world. But he's a Shakespearean actor, but he totally embraced it.
Nice. That's good to know you had a good time doing it anyways. So
Yeah.
what would you say? Oh yeah, so what made you go with like the whole more focused on storyline and telling the narrative of the first game aspect as opposed to just what everyone kept on thinking is just guns and guns and guns and shooting? Because they think Doom guy, they think, oh, it's all going to be just run and shoot. So what made you go with the storyline based approach? I actually kind of like that because it was different than what a lot of people were expecting, and it kind of opened up the doors for people who have not played the games before to give them a introduction to what the games actually have for the basic story.
Yeah, I mean the crux of the story, that what I came down to was how do I make a faithful adaptation, and how do I, still tell a movie, because a movie, it has to be a movie. I mean, while there's some fun stuff about the first person perspective that was in the previous Doom film, you know, I mean, Hardcore Henry to me was a really interesting concept that never carried over. And you see that that's going to get tiring a little bit.
Yeah.
The gimmick plays out. So I didn't want this to be a gimmick film, and I didn't want it to just be. I wanted this to start a new franchise. I wanted to give Doom its the gravity of it is, because I mean, Doom has it's a legendary game. It's an iconic game. We talked earlier about the passion of the fans, and it's such a landmark game that I wanted to give it a little bit more. So when I really took it very seriously approach, I started thinking what were the key elements that I thought a Doom movie needed, and in my opinion, the three things that came in were demons, hell, and the gates. And I we talked about the gates to make them important. I mean, it's a landmark. This is what humanity's been working on to help save humanity. The ability to travel to another Earth, another dimension, another thing that could save humanity. I thought that elevated the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I bring in demons? And what it started to come down to was if this is how my thought pattern worked. If there are demons, then there's angels. If there's hell, there's heaven. So it gave us the whole movie more spirituality than maybe on the surface of just your digital guy firing and blowing up a demon did. And that led to the development of the characters. And if you're literally battling a demon, then you probably need an angel. And that's kind of how the development of the character came, the lead character Joan, which you know, um, for lack of a better imagination, I thought of who were the greatest, female angel warriors, and Joan of Arc kind of popped into my head, and I basically took it as a very literal, interpretation of that of her character in modern times. Except, of course, in the film, Joan has lost her faith and has to discover it through the course of the picture. So
And then by the end of
that
it, she becomes um, kind of like more of a holy warrior fighting against the evil because she realizes she has to do this and
and
the memories
she
of it,
still
right?
needs the BFG 9000 to do it. She doesn't have any angelic powers, but
That's pretty angelic in itself.
it was my way of basically
I cheered for that.
yeah bringing a little more character to the picture.
Yeah.
And listen, it wasn't, and I felt the games led this. I know that there was a big cry for the Doom guy, and the Doom guy, your actual character in the movie or in the game was unnamed Space Marine.
Yeah.
Doom guy was a fan created name for the character. John Romero. I read about the original concept of that character. They didn't want Lara Croft. They didn't want Mario. They wanted because of the technology that they were creating with the first person perspective, they wanted the player to feel that they were the character. So to me, everybody playing was Doom guy. Everybody playing was that.
Yeah. Doom
So
person. Doom Marine. It's
versus,
basically the
yeah,
Doom Slayer, the Doom Marine.
versus a specific player. So to me, and that was created during a period when the majority of the game developers were men, the majority of the game players were men. Nowadays, more girls are playing, more girls are designing, and this isn't anything about any kind of diverse movements. It just kind of
It made sense.
I'm a fan of this genre. I've worked on the Resident Evil series myself.
Yeah.
Aliens was a big influence in the film. So to me, once I kind of pictured the Angel Battler, I didn't think it was a big stretch with the success of Linda Hamilton being a female lead in Terminator series, and Sigourney Weaver in the Alien series. It all seemed to fit what we were trying to do, and that's how we kind of I came up with the story and the characters.
Oh yeah, and the lead female actress in this was fantastic. One of the best.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
she was really good. She nailed it, I thought. Like, she.
She brought, you write these things and you hope, like, you want you want them to bring themselves to the part, but sometimes your job as a director is to give them that guide map, keep them on track. If they've come to play and they've bought into the character, very minimal direction is usually needed. What she was doing was bringing a soul and a humanity to maybe that wasn't necessarily on the page. So I give Amy a lot of credit, because some of those scenes where, you know,
She did bring a lot of
when she
personality.
even when she's using the chainsaw in the most, she's kicking ass, she's doing all this stuff, she's daggering these things, blood splattering on her face, and when she drops the chainsaw and all the spit and blood are coming down her face, you look at her eyes, she's there, she's into it. And we yelled cut, and I was like, that's great. And she goes, oh, can we do another one? I had all snot. I go, we can do another one, but I'm going to use the snot.
Yeah, the more messy it shows, the more panic in the situation, and that the chainsaw
Exactly.
part was one of the favorite moments in the film. I enjoyed
Oh,
that.
great. Yeah, it was super important for us
To
to
nail the chainsaw.
to do the chainsaw. It was one of the funniest. When I first delivered the draft to Universal, one of the notes I got was, so this is a top secret military ultra modern base. What's a chainsaw doing there? And I literally said to them, guys, there's going to be things that are iconic moments of the game that need to be in there.
Like key
And
cards.
I go, I'll justify it, So we had this room that, we played up. Like, you hear one of the characters say, even high tech base needs basic plumbing. So there's a tool bench. Why wouldn't you have a chainsaw just in
Yeah, it's a
case?
tool, and it came in
It's
handy.
cool. So it did come in handy.
That's one of the things the
So
fans are really going to embrace, seeing that chainsaw. That was a lot of fun. That whole moment was
it's a
just
fun
a
thing. It
sheer
was
moment of
fun.
joy and cheers for me.
Oh, good.
All right, so what kind of okay, yeah, what are some of the Easter eggs, just kind of little hidden things that fans might want to keep their eye out for, just ahead of time, so they can say, "Oh, I saw that. That was from this movie or this game."
Well, there's definitely a nod to some of the legend of, because, all right, so while game one was the unnamed Space Marine, clearly the game, at id Software started to develop. They saw how popular that character is, and they gave him backstories. They did the crossover. So there's a little nod to Blaskovich, in the
Yeah, I
film.
saw that.
Um, and the guy who's on any real hardcore gamers might also recognize the person who's the photo of Blaskovich's ID. Just throwing that out there. One of the things I wanted to use was the key cards. I felt like that was something that played into it. There's a hidden room where you find weapons.
Yeah.
That comes in later in the film. Like, that was always one of my favorite parts of the game, was to find that door that could open up and have. Oh my God, I got that weapon.
Yeah.
There's a nod to the double-barreled shotgun once
Love the
again.
super
This was
shotgun.
a note from the studio. They were like, why would these super high-tech Marines in the future have a double-barrel shotgun? And I would go, guys, we have to figure out how to make it organic, because I want it in there, because I think it's part of what everybody loves. When you go from having the single shotgun to the double shotgun in the game, it's thrilling.
It's
So,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, that was there. Let's see, what other fun Easter eggs were there?
Of course, name badges that we saw throughout the film at times.
Yeah, that. I didn't want to overdo because I felt that like I said, I didn't want to just retread where a previous Doom movie had gone, nor did I want to just, shake it off. So I do give a nod to the first person perspective. If you notice, it looks like your game
Yeah,
screen.
the HUD.
You'll see it, and we basically kind of mirrored that.
And
Not exactly, we modernized it a little bit, but we tried to be very respectful to that, and we cut to that, HUD several times throughout. So,
okay.
you know,
So, what were some of the biggest challenges you had during filming?
well, every movie's. I'm sure J.J. Abrams on Star Wars has days where he wants more time and money and stuff like that. So, viewers don't want to hear about budgets and stuff like that. But this was easily the most challenging film of my career. It was a low budget action film that we had practical effects, we had visual effects all working at the same time. We had gore effects. These are very time consuming to do. Um, the I wanted to give as much done practically in camera because I still feel that that's visually the best looking.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some things that we simply couldn't, which I wanted Hell to look very different than the film. So that whole Hell sequence was a really big. It took 3 days to film just Amy with green screen, and then that whole post production process was very long. Um, the other part was I just had my first daughter who was born, and then a month later I'm on a plane to Bulgaria for 3 or 4 months. So that
Which
was personally
that could be a
challenging
pretty big
to
challenge.
because she was too young to fly, and so my wife and child had to stay back. But this had been a project that
Mm-hmm.
I had wanted to make since I first played, and then when I heard that they were making a Doom movie, I tried to get an interview. I had a little juice. I just finished directing like a Jason Statham movie, and I was with a bigger agency, and I was like, try to get me for an interview, and they had already hired somebody, so I was a little bummed. So then I had been working with this division at Universal for the last 10 years, and a few years ago, I just had lunch with one of the executives, and she's like, "Well, what Universal title would most interest you in a reboot?" And I was like,
Doom.
"Doom." And so it was about 4 years from that conversation to right about now. So um, you know, it was a little bit of a war of attrition to get it all the way through because the previous Doom film it wasn't the biggest hit, so we really had to convince the bosses that
They changed
there was an
all the
audience.
lore, so yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that listen, I find it a very interesting and
It was a
fun
fun movie. I
action
enjoyed it as a
sci-fi
movie.
film.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it. I have it out there. But yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think it was a good representation of Doom because I don't think Doom is Doom without demons and hell and stuff
yeah,
like
you have
that.
to
So
have the core concepts, which is something I was really happy. I'm sure the fans will be happy that you kept within the film. So it's within that universe, so it's good. Okay. So were the cast members pretty easy to work with, to get along with? Do they all get along pretty well? Have a good time?
you know, sometimes they got along too well. They were always hanging out, which is good. You know, they're supposed to be a close knit group, except for Joan. But Amy Manson, uh, she's very Scottish, and you can take the girl out of Scotland, but you can't take the Scotland out of the girl. So she's very much one of the boys. Um, you know, just really funny, crass humor. Um, you know, when you do these location movies, most of the cast came out of London. Um, because we were shooting over there in Europe.
Yeah,
When you go on location, it's a lot easier to become, I tend to think like you become a little bit more of a family. You're at the same hotel, you're eating all your meals together. So, there's two ways to do that. You either become friends or you become enemies because you're just always together. And this group really, gelled.
that's good.
Um, and it was a pleasure because, we this was a 30-day shoot, so there's no time for you basically have to hit the ground running, and if there's any issues with actors that can hold you up a day or hours, every hour is precious. So if something's not going well, or somebody's giving you an issue, or somebody doesn't know their lines, or somebody doesn't isn't prepared to we had stunt training and all that kind of stuff, that everything has to go perfectly, and then it's still a huge challenge. So
Mm-hmm.
no issues from them.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
I wonder if you ask them about me, I can't guarantee what they'll say, but I feel like it was a very good working condition.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like everyone enjoyed it, had a good time, probably. Are any of them gamers, like, enjoy Doom at all, or mostly they just came in, did the scripted lines?
You know, there were a couple of I believe a couple, Tarek, the actor who played Tarek, the actor who played Winslow. They were very familiar with the game. Most of them were just actors that were everybody was aware. Doom is
Yeah,
a brand name.
it's
I
pretty
mean,
big in the industry.
my mom knew what Doom was, and she wouldn't even know what a video game is. So that's it's because it is what it is. It's the first game to really implement that first person perspective, which is now the standard, for the majority of games and how people interpret games. And
Yeah.
it's been revitalized wonderfully lately with the newer games. So it's you know it, everybody was aware of that. They were aware, and I made sure once they got cast, I said, you know this isn't just, you're not just making a film. You're going to be part of a community. You're going to be part of something that, there's going to be that passion from the gaming community, from movie community, from genre community. It's going to be enlightening. I was even trying to tell Universal, I go, this is going to be one of the bigger titles simply because it's Doom. And I've written all the Death Race movies for these guys, and that's been a wonderful experience and a successful franchise. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
take that action core hardcore base of fans. Now you're adding all the gamer communities that are going to be aware of the game, and it's going to be an onslaught.
Mm-hmm. And with the game coming out soon, the new game coming out soon as
Yeah.
well, Doom Eternal, the fans are all going to be scrounging to find anything more Doom just to add to their Doom library because they need to get that Doom fixed while they wait for the game to come out.
Well, we're not going to compete with Eternal. We can't compete with those games. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, it's just going to bring up
you
the hype and the search
yeah,
results too, which is
you've
pretty
got
nice.
they're great. And and that's one of the other challenges with the movie. I mean, we have, you know why games and why movies based from IP of games. It's tough because, especially nowadays, you know there's 80 to 100 hours of gameplay on a game, and you control all the action.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a movie, it's 90 minutes and everything's already written, and you have to follow the story. I mean, we can't fool ourselves into thinking we can compete. And for that time, what we hope is we're a nice complement to we're a different interpretation of Doom. We try to be faithful, and try to be exciting and fun.
Okay. So, a couple more questions. If you were to have to do, like, if you were going to do the movie again, and with all the knowledge that you had now, was there anything that you would probably do differently?
Um, it's a good question. Uh, no, I mean, no, we're pretty happy with where we're at. We felt like, you know, listen, if there's any more time or money, we'll always take that. I like the idea that I think that the four types of demons we had in the film, I think would be appropriate. I mean, my first draft had like seven types, but budgetarily we just had to pick and choose and make some tough choices. No, the cast really came to play. They really did a great job. I you know I'm very happy with where we're at.
Okay. Yeah, I was happy with how that came out. Oh, one second.
Thank you.
My Bandicam program just shut down on me.
I have ideas where we'd go for sequels. Um, you know, different stuff. Introduce new demons and stuff like that. So hopefully, if
Yeah.
people respond, we can definitely explore other avenues and situations and go. I'd like to do that. I'd like to make a couple more Doom movies, but it'll all really depend on the fans.
Awesome. Okay. And are there any talks of a sequel in the future at all, or is that just not even a concept yet? But is that something you'd be interested in
There's always
doing, or?
talk. There's always talk. We, you know, clearly how the film ends leaves it open. Um, and when I pitched this, I did pitch uh, 3 films. I wanted that story to go through. Because how we end is very similar to how Doom 1 ends and Doom 2 begins, the games.
Yeah,
You
and then
think you
there's
survived,
Final
you
Doom
think
after
you,
that.
yeah. So there's definitely more story to tell, and I think visually it could change if we come back to Earth and follow a little bit of that, a little bit of the Doom 2 storyline, Doom 2 game storyline, um, which I think would be really interesting to go from one movie where it's all space bases to coming back and seeing what the demons did when they came back to Earth. I think would be really fun. Um, I wouldn't want to just do another space base version.
Yeah, like
So
maybe jumping in after she wakes up and see what happened.
today in most things, most film companies don't like to talk about just one movie. So clearly that topic always comes up, even if there's no direct plans for a sequel. They would at least want to see the franchise potential. So I definitely see it. I think the fans know that clearly there's multiple games and you can keep following a storyline. You could do prequels. You could do all this kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, that would be the. I'd like to continue the story.
All right, that'd be a fun thing to see in the future.
Thank
So,
you.
awesome. Okay, so now we're about to wrap up. And, well, first I just want to remind everyone that the movie's coming out on October 1st, so check that out. You can get it on Amazon, probably every other online store that you can find. You can
That's
get it on
correct.
Blu-ray and DVD. And is there anything else you'd like to note them on that? So, anyways, guys,
No,
hmm?
I hope the fans enjoy it. Listen, it was a total honor to make a Doom movie. It had been a lifetime goal. This is the 7th movie I've directed, and this it felt like the first one, and it felt like I knew going in that there was going to be a lot of eyes on us, and the ultimate goal was to make a faithful adaptation that the fans could at least, you know, I'm not going to please everyone. I know everyone has their own interpretation, but I want to reassure fans that at every moment, myself, Universal, we all tried to be as respectful to the games as we possibly could, because I felt that was not only lacking in the previous Doom effort, but
Mm,
in a lot of the video games they just basically they take a character or they take an idea and then they just go with it, and I felt like
yeah, that's why we
we need to
have
show a little bit more
concepts of
respect
game
to it.
movies not doing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it, and I hope people like the movie.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they will. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you enjoyed this, please just press the like button or give us a rating. Give me a rating based on how you think I did. Talk to me in the comments below and give me your input. I actually enjoy talking to you guys, and I will comment back. So, email me if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. Evilzombie at protonmail.com. Okay, so have a good one, guys. Bye.